I'm sorry, sir, but we can't give food on credit, the cashier said boldly. Darius froze mid-bite, his fork hovering above his plate of fries. Please, the old man said softly, his voice breaking. She hasn't eaten since yesterday. The cashier sighed, glancing at the nearly empty diner. I'm sorry, sir. Rules are rules. The old woman lowered her eyes, whispering, Let's just go, Harold. Maybe tomorrow. Darius looked at them, then at his half-eaten burger, the first real meal he'd had in 3 days. His stomach still ached from hunger, but something inside him twisted even more sharply. He pushed his plate away, stood up, and called out, Wait! The old couple turned, startled. Darius reached for his wallet. It was almost empty, just a few wrinkled bills left from the dishwashing job he worked after school. Still, he smiled. I'll pay for them. The cashier blinked. Kid, are you sure? Yeah, Darius said quietly, sliding the last of his cash across the counter. Just give them whatever they want. The old woman's eyes filled with tears. You don't have to do that. I know, Darius said, forcing a small smile. But you need it more than I do. The cashier hesitated, then nodded and began preparing 2 hot plates. The smell of sizzling eggs and toast filled the air, and Darius's stomach growled in protest. He tried not to show it. The man stepped closer. Son, what's your name? Darius. Darius what? Darius Hall. The old man extended a trembling hand. You just did something most people wouldn't. I won't forget this. Darius shrugged. It's just breakfast. But the woman shook her head. No, sweetheart. It's kindness. That's rarer than gold these days. They sat and began to eat, thanking him again and again, while Darius slipped out quietly, his empty wallet heavy in his pocket. The streets outside were gray with drizzle. Darius pulled his hoodie tight, walking home past cracked sidewalks and flickering streetlights. His apartment was small, just 2 rooms, but it was home, shared with his grandmother, who'd raised him since his mother died. When he walked in, she was sitting on the couch, knitting by the window. Her face lit up. You eat, baby? He hesitated. Yeah, Grandma, I ate. She smiled warmly. Good. You've been working too hard. Can't let the world take your kindness away. He smiled faintly, repeating her words back in his head. Can't let the world take your kindness away. That night, Darius's stomach ached from hunger, but he didn't regret it. Somehow it felt right. The next morning, sunlight poured through the curtains and a loud knock startled him awake. He rubbed his eyes, glancing at the clock. 7:32 a.m. Who's that this early? His grandmother asked. Darius shrugged, pulling on a t-shirt and heading to the door. When he opened it, he froze. A sleek black SUV was parked on the curb and 2 sharply dressed men stood beside it. Behind them, an older gentleman stepped forward, the same one from the diner, only now he wasn't wearing the ragged coat from yesterday. He was dressed in a perfectly tailored suit, polished shoes, and a gold watch that gleamed in the sunlight. Morning, Darius, the man said, smiling. I told you I wouldn't forget. Darius blinked, confused. Wait, Mr. Harold? The man nodded. That's right, Harold Whitmore. I'm sorry about the disguise yesterday. It's not something I enjoy doing, but my wife and we do it for a reason. Darius's grandmother came to the door, clutching her robe. Excuse me, who are you? Harold smiled kindly. Ma'am, my name's Harold Whitmore. I used to run Whitmore Holdings before I retired, a few real estate projects here and there. Darius's jaw tightened. You're that Whitmore? The one who owns half the apartments downtown? The man chuckled. Guilty as charged. He reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. Yesterday, you gave away your meal to help 2 strangers. You didn't know who we were, and you didn't ask for anything in return. That kind of heart is rare. He handed Darius the envelope. I think you'll want to see this. Darius opened it slowly. Inside was a letter and a check. His eyes widened. $50,000, he whispered. His grandmother gasped. Oh, dear Lord! Harold nodded. It's not charity, son. It's an opportunity. I fund scholarships for students who show compassion and integrity, qualities you proved you have in abundance. If you accept, that money will go straight to your tuition and living expenses for college. Darius's voice trembled. I don't know what to say. Just promise me you'll keep that same kindness wherever life takes you, Harold said gently. Darius tried to speak, but emotion clogged his throat. I will, sir. I swear I will, Harold smiled. Good. Then we'll be in touch soon. He turned to leave, his chauffeur already opening the car door. But just before stepping inside, Harold paused and looked back. By the way, Darius, did you ever wonder why we were at that diner yesterday? Darius frowned. No, should I have? The man's eyes gleamed. Because it wasn't random. Darius blinked. What do you mean? Harold gave a small, knowing smile. Let's just say someone you love asked us to test what kind of young man you really were. Darius's heart skipped. Someone I love? Harold only smiled wider. You'll understand soon enough. He got into the SUV, the door shutting softly behind him. The car pulled away, disappearing down the street, leaving Darius standing in stunned silence. His grandmother put a trembling hand on his shoulder. Darius, what did he mean by that? Darius stared down the road, still clutching the letter. I don't know, Grandma. He turned the envelope over in his hands and noticed something written in fine cursive on the back. 4 simple words that made his heart stop cold. Your mother says hello. He looked up, his pulse racing. Grandma, he whispered. How could he know about Mom? She went pale, her knitting needle clattering to the floor. Darius, she said shakily, there's something I need to tell you. He looked at her, confusion written all over his face. What do you mean? He asked. She hesitated, tears welling in her eyes. Your mother, she knew the Whitmores? Darius froze, his heartbeat loud in his ears. What? How? His grandmother swallowed hard. Because before she passed, she worked for them. Darius's hand trembled as he looked again at the letter, the check, and that haunting message. His mother, the woman he'd lost years ago, had somehow been tied to this family all along. But how deep did that connection go? And what did Harold Whitmore really mean by test? Question for you. What do you think Darius's mother's connection to the Whitmore family was? Did they owe her something? Or is there a secret she left behind? Darius sat at the kitchen table, the check for $50,000 lying between him and his grandmother like a secret too heavy to touch. Grandma, he whispered. What did you mean? She worked for them. His grandmother looked down at her trembling hands. Your mother, Angela, was the Whitmore's housekeeper before you were born. But she wasn't just cleaning floors, Darius. She was helping Harold's wife through cancer treatments. They grew close, like family. Darius frowned. But Mom never told me that. She didn't want pity, Grandma said softly. After your father left, she wanted to make her own way. But one day, something happened. She caught one of Mr. Whitmore's business partners trying to exploit one of their charity funds. She exposed him, saved the company's reputation, but made enemies doing it. Darius leaned forward, confused. Enemies? For doing the right thing? His grandmother nodded. A week later, your mom was in a car accident. They said it was random, but I never believed that. Darius's breath hitched. You think it wasn't an accident? I think, she said slowly, that man never forgot what she did. And now, Harold Whitmore is trying to make it right, through you. The next morning, Darius found another letter slipped under the door. It was handwritten, sealed with the same golden emblem as the first envelope. Inside, a note read, Meet me at the Beacon Diner, noon, Harold. Darius's pulse quickened. He showed his grandmother, who hesitated but nodded. You go, baby, but keep your eyes open. By noon, he was sitting in the same diner where it had all started. The smell of coffee and grilled bacon filled the air. At the far booth sat Harold Whitmore, dressed more casually this time, no fancy suit, no cameras, just a simple button-up and kind eyes. Darius, Harold said, motioning for him to sit. You came. I had questions, Darius said bluntly. About my mom, about what you said. Harold's expression softened. I thought you might. He slid a small photo across the table. It was old and faded, showing a young woman standing beside Harold and his wife in front of a large mansion. The woman was smiling, radiant, confident. It was his mother. Darius swallowed hard. She worked for you? Harold nodded. She did. But she was more than an employee. Angela was brilliant. She had ideas that saved my company from ruin. She warned me about a corrupt partner named Donovan Price. She risked everything to stop him from stealing from our charity foundation. Donovan Price, Darius repeated. That name sounds familiar. Harold sighed. He's still around. Owns several businesses in the city now, but back then, when your mother exposed him, she embarrassed him publicly. A few weeks later, she was gone. Darius's hands curled into fists. You're saying he might have had something to do with it? I've never had proof, Harold said quietly. But after seeing you yesterday, I realized fate doesn't make mistakes. You have your mother's heart, Darius. Her courage. Darius's throat tightened. Why didn't you ever tell us? I tried, Harold said, eyes heavy with guilt. I came looking for you both after her accident, but by then you'd moved. I didn't find you until your video went viral. My video? Darius frowned. Harold chuckled. You didn't notice? Someone filmed you giving away your meal at the diner. It's everywhere. People have been talking about your kindness. Darius blinked in disbelief. I didn't know. Harold smiled. The world needs stories like yours, Darius. People need to see that goodness still exists. Then his expression turned serious. But kindness doesn't mean weakness. Sometimes it takes courage to stand up for what's right, even when no one believes you. Just like your mother. Darius nodded slowly. So what happens now? Harold leaned back, his eyes thoughtful. Now, I make good on a promise I made her years ago. She told me, if anything ever happens to me, make sure my boy has a chance to do better than I did. He reached into his jacket and pulled out another envelope. Inside was a scholarship offer, full tuition, books, housing, and living expenses, to a prestigious university. This is for you, Darius, Harold said gently. And there's one more thing. He handed him a small key. What's this? Darius asked. Harold smiled. The key to your mother's storage unit. She left something behind before she died, something I think you need to see. That evening, Darius and his grandmother drove across town to the small, dusty storage facility listed on the envelope. The clerk led them to Unit 18B and unlocked it. Inside was a single trunk, old and covered in dust. Darius opened it slowly. Inside were neatly stacked journals, photographs, and a box labeled, "For my son." Darius's hands shook as he lifted the lid. Inside, he found a leather notebook, a folded letter, and an old silver locket. He opened the letter first. My dearest Darius, if you're reading this, I'm not with you anymore. But I need you to know something. I didn't leave this world scared. I left it proud. Proud of the person I hoped you'd become. Life will test you, son. People will try to take your kindness as weakness. Don't let them. Use your heart, but protect it. Because someday, that heart will change lives. Maybe even save them. Tears blurred his vision as he finished reading. His grandmother squeezed his shoulder, whispering, She always believed in you. He picked up the locket and opened it. Inside was a picture of him as a baby held in his mother's arms, smiling. On the opposite side, engraved words read, The heart that gives grows. A few weeks later, Darius stood outside his new college dorm, suitcase in hand, his grandmother and Harold by his side. This is your new beginning, Harold said proudly. Make her proud. I will, Darius said, his voice thick with emotion. He turned to his grandmother, hugging her tightly. Thank you for everything, Grandma. She smiled through tears. You're her son, Darius. Don't ever forget that. As he walked toward the dorm entrance, he paused, pulling the locket from his pocket. He held it to his chest, whispering, I'll make you proud, Mom. And in that moment, he finally understood what his mother meant, that real wealth wasn't about money or fame, but about compassion, integrity, and the courage to do what's right. Life lesson. Sometimes the smallest act of kindness can echo louder than a lifetime of words. What you give away freely might just come back as the very blessing you never saw coming. Question for you. If you were in Darius's shoes, would you have given away your last meal to help a stranger? Why or why not? Comment your answer below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring stories that remind us what true humanity looks like.